In this video, we will check about the exception handling stage. So exception handling stage is a very important stage in the blueprism. So it helps to continue the process. So this is the stage for exception handling. Upon double clicking, we can check what all the default exception types available. So these are the different types of exception available. So broadly, we can classify this as system exception and business exception. So here we can select the exception type, and in the exception type, in the exception detail field, we can provide the data within the quotes. So to illustrate this example, I am going to create an calculation stage which throws an error. So I will create three data items and will provide the values. I'm renaming this X and the data type as number and the data 2 as Y and the data type again as number and the data 3 as result, and I am providing the data type as text. So I'm providing value for this X, I am providing value 4 and Y as value 0, and in the calculation stage I am dividing this one, so it will throw an error by dividing X by Y. So Y value is 0, so it will definitely throw an error. So I will restore the result in the result type. Now I have to connect these different stages. So upon running this process, when it reaches the division stage, it will be stuck there. It will not continue further. So we will check. So it throws an error, failed to evaluate expression x divided by y division by 0. So in these types of scenario, in these conditions, we can use this exception. So I am rearranging these values. So I will move these data items into the left and this exception into the right. Now I will connect this, and before that I have to add one decision stage which checks if y value is 0 or not. And I have to provide the y to check if y value is 0. So check if y value is 0, and if yes, it should go into the exception. So I am arranging these stages. So now I have arranged, and I have to connect this stage into the exception. So if y value is 0, now this goes to into yes, yes goes to into division. So I have to switch this. So I am switching this condition. Now if y value is 0, it will go into the exception stage. If y value is not 0, it will go into the calculation stage. So now I am again running this. So you can see the the stage reaches into the exception. So we have now not we didn't provide any exception details into the exception stage. So now we will add those exception details and exception type here. So this is a system exception. I'm classifying it as system exception, and the exception detail as y value is 0. And I have provided these values. Now upon running this again, we can see the values in the exception. So now we have the type of exception as system exception, and detail as y values 0. So now another important thing when we use exception handling is the block. So here is the block. So we can use this block to mark these two items. Sorry. So this is the block. So what block is, it is very useful because if any exception comes in this y value stage, it will come to the exception. So if we mark this check y values decision stage and division stage both in a single block, so whenever an exception occurs in both stages, it will come into this exception stage. Like when I put this block stage as like this. So another thing is we cannot drag or put a block inside another block. It will be an error. So I have to delete this X stages or the blocks, existing block. So I'm deleting this. So I can also try this block as like this. So whenever an exception occurs in decision stage, check y value, or in the division stage, the exception will come to this exception. So now I'm deleting this block and covering this exception only in this stage. And another important thing is this recover and resume stage. So I am using this recover and resume here. So this recover attracts any exceptions that occurs in a page. So whenever an exception occurs in this page, it will be attracted to this recover one stage, and it will help to the process to continue further. So this resume stage handles the exception and continues further. So after this resume, I am going to end this process. Now I have to link all these stages. So now I have linked all these stages. Now what happens? We can check what happens. So the exception reached and it is attracted by the recover one stage, and the process, the recover and resume stage help the process to continue further, and the process has completed now. Now again we can use another calculation stage to store the exception details in this result stage. So I am double clicking this, and I am going to exceptions in the calculation stage and dragging this exception detail into the expression, and I am going to store that result in the result data type. Now I have to connect this calculation stage within recover and resume, and I am arranging this properly. So the pointer is not selected, so selected again and I have rearranged. Now what happens? The exception detail will be available in this result stage. So we can check till came to recover stage and calculation stage. Now the result value we can check. We have the exception detail there, y values 0. So this is the basic understanding about the exception handling. Thank you.